All right, welcome to CMMC Unacknowledged, where we answer the unanswered questions that were asked during the monthly CMMC-AB town hall meetings. My name is Todd Stanton. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for all things CMMC at Etactics. As always, I'm joined by Ty Wittenberg. Ty is the Senior Information Assurance Manager at Ray & Associates. Welcome, Ty.
Hey, thanks for having me, Todd.
My pleasure. All right, our question for this episode is, CMMC 2.0 introduced the concept of a waiver. Can you explain what guidance has been released regarding these waivers?
So there hasn't been a ton of information released yet on waivers. The concept of a waiver I thought was pretty interesting in that the communication that was shared from a conversation I heard with Matthew Travis is that waivers will be allowed on a very limited basis and only allowed in select mission critical instances. So I guess the big things, the big three here, only allowed in select mission critical instances, strictly time bound, but more importantly, it will require a senior DoD official approval. That way it helps to minimize potential misuse of the waiver process.
So my follow-up to that is, why do you think that they inserted this waiver policy, which seems to stray far from the guidance that was initially released with 1.0?
Yeah, I think, our organization seeking certification, the defense industrial base, there's these smaller organizations that contribute to the primes that do amazing work, unique work, right? If my fiance was here and I said very unique, she'd get upset with me because it's an overuse of adjectives, right? There's no such thing as very unique, but they do unique work. So, I think, and for, if we go back to the first thing I said on mission critical instances, I think that waiver would be instituted because having them jump through this additional hoop or loop or hula hoop, however you want to look at it, would create undue strain on our defense and will require delays that could have negative impact to our government's and our military forces mission. So I think when you look at it, the government program office will submit a waiver request package, right, including the justification and risk mitigation strategies. So that's probably the key important thing, is that we're going to create a waiver, but now, in earlier conversations that we've had on some of our talks here, Todd, we've talked about policy, or, system security plans, written policies, procedures. Risk mitigation strategies require you to have something written down. So, when you think about the Delta 20 that we talked about not necessarily being important, they still have value here because now this comes up in place for when you're talking about offering a waiver program.
And so one aspect I've thought about when it comes to the waiver program, and this is something we haven't really talked about, but DoD didn't really change any of the rollout guidance for this 2.0, right? The only thing that we know from a time frame standpoint is 9 to 24 months from when 2.0 was released. They expected rulemaking to happen in CFR parts 32 and 48, but they didn't really update, that walk, crawl, run approach that was released with the 1.0. And so I'm wondering if the waiver policy might be a short-term solution for a faster rollout to try to meet their ultimate goal of, by fiscal year 2026, having all contracts contain these requirements and CMMC certification requirements. So I wonder if it kind of plays into that, where if early on in the process, say December 2023, contracts start having these requirements in them, but maybe the ecosystem with the assessors and C3POs isn't as well built to facilitate these assessments and certifications on a broad enough scale, that maybe some of these waivers could be used in the interim period to allow companies who haven't been able to get that certification assessment done to participate in these contracts. And I just think it gives them a lot of flexibility. Whereas before, the old system was pretty cut and dry. It's either you have your certification and you can perform work on that contract, or you don't and you can't. Now there's this concept of, well, if we see a business reason, a risk mitigation reason as to justify why we should allow an organization to participate on a contract that would otherwise require the certification to be in place, at least we have that flexibility now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you hit a lot of great points there. Yes, I think if you think of a pressure cooker, I think the waiver is a release valve. And when you mention the CMMC structured rollout, crawl, walk, run, it gave the opportunity for organizations to go and build in, that maturity and things like that, and gave a kind of a clear marching orders, plan for folks. What I will say now is, while we may say, well, CMMC 2.0 seems easier and it's self-assessment, and there's a bifurcated model with level 2, and then there's a clearly defined level 3. To your point, Todd, the ramp-up time, folks aren't really paying attention to that. The ramp-up time has changed. That ramp-up time is going to occur anytime between 9 months from last month to, like you said, December of 2023. That's 3 years sooner than what the originally was communicated with the DIB around getting to those maturity levels. So to your point, yes, I think it serves that mean as well.
And a follow-up to that, do you still envision that crawl, walk, run approach to be the rollout in terms of the number of contracts that get released with these requirements for participants to be certified? Or do you think it's more of a, they flip the switch and say all contracts past this point in rulemaking are going to have these requirements?
So, I don't have a ton of breadth of knowledge around how the contracts are written and rolled out. But what I would say to you is I don't think the crawl, walk, run model applies anymore. If you've already begun this journey as an organization, you're in your crawl, walk, run currently right now. But for those folks that have kind of put on their thinking caps and waited to see what the pundits out there like you and I and what the DOD are saying, you might be in for a real crunch, even if you're talking about self-attestation. And,
a lot of the requirements, to your point, are existing today. I mean, really all the requirements, right? At level 1 and level 2, at least. I think level 3 is the only level that really new requirements are being added from what is expected for people handling federal contract information and controlling classified information today to be, demonstrating that they're actually doing these things. So it's interesting that you think the crawl, walk, run approach is no longer applicable. I think that, it probably will be just based on the ecosystem. I think that they will still have to take some type of measured approach. My question is, do they try to abbreviate that ramp up to still meet their goal of by fiscal year 2026, all contracts having those requirements? Or like you're saying, is it more of a flip of a switch where once this rulemaking happens, all contracts are going to have these requirements? Because
right.
As with many other topics, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, what I hope is it doesn't become like your first day of basketball camp, right, in high school, where your coach wants to assess your cardio, right, which I would equate to your network capability and safeguarding information. And, right in that first practice, you get thrown into a 1 mile run. And then after the 1 mile run, you demonstrate some skills. And then to close out that session, they put you through some wind sprints, right? That is definitely not a crawl, walk, run model. That is a come in and stretch your stuff from day one.
Agreed. Well, I appreciate the conversation and getting your insight on this portion.